Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Hello, sweet friends. It is Sunday, November 24th, and it is 9:44 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to get into the Q-related news next. While I am talking, the first video that I've done is uploading, and that contains the Q posts from the 23rd and the 24th. So this will be news related, so let's get to it. At the end of the show, I do have a couple people to thank, but we are going to jump right in now. So come on in. The water's fine. Not if you're in Canada, it's not. It's really cold. But a lot of you people are in nice warm places that I can only dream of at this point. But I'll be okay. Don't worry about me. All right, so this is State Department. This is from Zero Hedge. State Department releases detailed accounts of Biden Ukraine corruption. Well. Now, this is today's, so it's fresh off the press. Doesn't get any fresher. A liberal watchdog group's attempt to nail Rudy Giuliani has backfired in spectacular fashion after a Freedom of Information Act request resulted in the U.S. State Department releasing detailed accusations of corruption against the Bidens, based on interviews with former Ukrainian officials who were in charge of the investigations. Responding to a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit from the group American Oversight, the State Department on Friday night released almost 100 pages of records detailing efforts by Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to investigate corruption, which includes contacts with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Representative Devin Nunes earlier this year. While American Oversight's gotcha is that Giuliani has multiple contacts with Mike Pompeo and others while investigating Ukraine corruption, they completely ignore interview notes containing detailed allegations by former Ukraine Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin, who Joe Biden had fired, as well as his successor, Prosecutor General Yuri Lusenko, who believes Mr. Viktor Shokin, the former Prosecutor General, is honest. Let's go on. Viktor Shokin, on a January 23, 2019 phone call between Shokin and Giuliani, Igor Fruman, Lev Parnas, and George Boyle, Shokin said he was appointed to the position of General Prosecutor of Ukraine from 2015 until April of 2016, when he was removed at the request of Mr. Joseph Biden, the Vice President of the United States. Shokin became involved in a case against Mr. Mykola Zlochevsky, the former Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources of Ukraine. The case was opened as a result of Mr. Zlochevsky giving himself company permits to drill for gas and oil in Ukraine. Mr. Zlochevsky is also the owner of Burisma Holdings. Mr. Shokin stated that there are documents that list 5 criminal cases in which Mr. Zlochevsky is listed, with the main case for issuing illegal gas exploration permits. The following complaints are in the criminal case. Just, excuse me 1 minute. I just noticed that this is now uploaded, so I do want to just get this out to Twitter as well. And there we go. And let's go back to the job at hand. All right. So Mr. Shokin stated there are no documents that list Mr. Shokin stated that there are documents that list 5 criminal cases in which Mr. Zlochevsky is listed, with the main case being for issuing illegal gas exploration permits. The following complaints are in the criminal case. 1. Mr. Zlochevsky was laundering money. 2. He obtained assets by corrupt acts and bribery. 3. Mr. Zlochevsky removed approximately $23 million out of Ukraine without permission. While seated as the minister, he approved 2 additional entities to receive permits for gas exploration. Mr. Zlochevsky was the owner of 2 secret companies that were part of Burisma Holdings and gave those companies permits, which made it possible for him to profit while he was the sitting minister. Sounds like some of our people in government. I won't mention any names, but you know who I'm talking about. So Mr. Shokin further stated that there were several Burisma board appointees or appointments were made. Mr. Shokin further stated that there were several Burisma board appointments were made in 2014 as follows. Okay, I thought that was that I misread it properly, but that's actually how it's written. Devin Archer left with Joe and Hunter Biden. And that kind of puts paid to the idea that Joe Biden said, well, I didn't know. He didn't tell me anything that he was doing there. I didn't know what my son was up to. Right. Okay. 1. Hunter Biden, son of Vice President Joseph Biden, Joseph Blade, former CIA employee assigned to anti-terrorist unit, Alexander Kwasniewski, former president of Poland, Devin Archer, roommate to Christopher Hines, stepson of Mr. John Kerry, United States Secretary of State. Roommate or lover, I don't know. But they were roommates. All right. Mr. Shokin stated that these appointments were made by Mr. Slokowski in order to protect himself. Shokin then details how in July 2015, U.S. Ambassador Jeffrey R. Pyatt told him that the investigation has to be handled with white gloves, which according to Mr. Shokin implied doing nothing on or about, I'll just correct the grammar as I go, I guess. On or about September 2015, Mr. Pyatt gave a speech in Odessa where he stated that the cases were not investigated correctly and that Mr. Shokin may be corrupt. Mr. Shokin further stated on February of 2016, warrants were placed on the accounts of multiple people in Ukraine. There were requests for information on Hunter Biden, to which nothing was received. It is believed that Hunter Biden receives a salary, commission, plus $1 million. President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, who Joe Biden threatened to withhold $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees, told Mr. Shokin not to investigate Burisma as it was not in the interest of Joe and or Hunter Biden. Mr. Shokin was called into Mr. Poroshenko's office and told that the investigation into Burisma and the managing director where Hunter Biden is on the board has caused Joe Biden to hold up $1 billion in U.S. aid to Ukraine. Mr. Shokin stated that on or around April of 2016, Mr. Petro Poroshenko called him and told him that he was to be fired as the aid to the Ukraine was being withheld by Joe Biden. Mr. Biden told Mr. Poroshenko that he had evidence that Mr. Shokin was corrupt and needed to be fired. Mr. Shokin was dismissed in April of 2016, and the U.S. aid was delivered with 1.5 months. On a different point, Shokin believes the current ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch, denied his visa to travel to the U.S. Mr. Shokin stated that he is close to Mr. Biden. Mr. Shokin also stated that there were leaks by a person named Rishenko of the Ukrainian State Secret Service about the Manafort Black Book. Mr. Shokin stated that there is possibly deceit in the Manafort Black Book. And Yuri Lutsenko takes Shokin's interview one step further in a January 25th phone interview with Giuliani and associates, describing how Ukraine has 2 secretive units which are protected by a U.S. ambassador. Mr. Lutsenko went on to explain that there is a unit called Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAP, which has under its purview National Anti-Corruption Bureau Ukraine, which investigates corruption cases that involved public figures from mayors upward. He stated that the current U.S. ambassador protects SAP and NABU, adding his office has absolutely no control over SAP or NABU and can't even ask what they are working on. However, they fall under his control. Okay. If something falls under your control and you're not even allowed to ask what they're working on, there's a big problem with that. But I digress. Of note, NABU was established in October 2014 by Mr. George Kent, who was a deputy chief to the mission in Ukraine. and has an ugly bow tie. I'm just saying. Lysenko went on to say that he began looking at the same case Mr. Shokin was looking at, mentioned above, and he believes Hunter Biden received millions of dollars in compensation from Burisma. He produced a document from Latvia that showed several $1 million that were distributed out of Burisma's account. The record showed 2 companies and 4 individuals received approximately $16 million in disbursements, that as follows. Companies: WireLogic Technology, $14,665,982. Digitex, $1,900,000. Individuals: Alexander Kwasniewski, $1,150,000. 2. Alan Apter, $302,887. Devin Archer, amount not revealed by Latvia. Hunter Biden, amount not revealed by Latvia. Mr. Lysenko stated that there was also a payment of $900,000 to Rosemont Seneca Partners, LLC, for consulting fees. Hunter Biden is a partner in Rosemont Seneca Partners, LLC, along with Devin Archer, and the dates of this transaction are approximately anywhere from January to December 2015. According to Mr. Lysenko, the $900,000 invoice was for services rendered for lobbying by Joe Biden. And this from Rudy Giuliani. Truth alert: the statement I've made several times of having an insurance policy if thrown under bus is sarcastic and relates to the files in my safe about the Biden family's 4-decade monetizing of his office. 4 decades he's been monetizing his office. If I disappear, it will appear immediately along with my RICO chart. So I guess he's got a dead man switch in place. And I know some people have asked if he is frightened. I think that he is taking precautions. There's no doubt about that. But he said, well, the mob couldn't kill me. So, well, I think the deep state has ultimately more, at their disposal than the mob. But I am sure that he is probably being kept safe. At least we pray so. And it says, read the interviews below and see the full release here. Well, I'm not going to do that. It is far too much to get into, but that gives us a good overview of what Rudy Giuliani has and what he has been collecting. We're all of this, everything that we have been learning about Q, that we've been told, it's all converging. It's all converging right now. And yeah, it's not, I don't think this will be a case of, oh, it's going to turn out to be nothing. I don't think so. They've been working on this and planning this with military precision so long. Trump is always 10 steps ahead of anyone. He's 10 steps ahead of the smartest person in the room, always. I don't know how he does it. I don't pretend to know, but he does. And I believe that all of this is coming to a head like a big pimple that sooner or later, if you don't pick at it, it's going to pop itself. I know, not a very nice analogy, but all right, let's go back here. Now, this from Mr. Jones. Queen Elizabeth cancels Prince Andrew's birthday party. I'm sure Andrew is upset about all those 12-year-old girls, that all those 12-year-old girls aren't coming over to play anymore. Birthday party. Yeah. Gee, I hate it when my mommy cancels my birthday party. A birthday party? Yeah, it was his 60th birthday party. So wonder what was planned. I don't want to know. But it's not planned any longer. They've kicked him out. They have taken away his public duties, and he has been kicked out of his office at Buckingham Palace. So, and the Queen has said, no birthday party for you. So my guess is she's pretty ticked off. What would your guess be? All right, and let's go to this while we're on the topic of Prince Andrew's birthday party. that part that was, I got to ask you guys because I'm having a hard time believing it. I'm sure most of you have seen the interview with Prince Andrew, and it's a train wreck, like really a train wreck. But there was a piece that was cut out that has been circulating about him saying, I have a really small pee-pee. I mean, who uses the word pee-pee, really? Is that some kind of a joke, or did he really say that? Now, I know probably you guys are going to make me, you're going to put it in the comments and I'm going to feel like a whatever, some sort of a special idiot for bringing it up. But it looks like he's actually saying those words, but I cannot imagine a grown man saying that. And how would that be a defense anyway? He obviously fathered 2 children. So how is having a small pee-pee, how is that defense of anything? I don't know. All right. Queen Elizabeth cancels Prince Andrew's birthday party. Queen Elizabeth has canceled plans for a lavish 60th birthday party for her son, Prince Andrew, with the little pee-pee. That's how he said it. Pee-pee. For her son, Prince Andrew. She will instead celebrate the February 19th birthday with a small family dinner, the Sunday Times of London reported. The change of plans come a day after she stripped Andrew of his royal duties and kicked out his staff from Buckingham Palace after his recent BBC interview on his friendship with pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And yet, Prince Charles was really close to Jimmy Savile, right? I mean, Jimmy Savile, he was quite the prolific pedophile, and yet, he's still in, he didn't get kicked out of anything. I think it was the fact that, not the fact that he did it. I don't think they care about that. I think that as long as the royal family keeps their little forays in, quiet, then the Queen is perfectly fine with that. It's just that he decided to do an interview. And it was, saying it was a train wreck is so, understating it, because it was a disaster of biblical proportions. It was, I don't know, it was bad. So anyway, there you go. Big Bang Theory actress dies. I'm sorry, I had to click on that because I used to love that. Lillian Adler. Well, I don't know who that is, but she died. I've never seen her on, I don't know. Anyway, I had to click on that because I used to love that show. That's neither here nor there, and that wouldn't even get you a cup of coffee, that little bit of information. So anyway, all right, let's go on now because I've had enough of Prince Andrew and his little pee-pee. All right, now let's look at this. Yeah, this. Reports say Representative Adam Schiff told Ukraine officials don't investigate Biden's. Okay, now this is 4 days old, so it's getting a little stale, but I'm bringing it to you anyway. Because once in a while, a little bite of something stale isn't going to kill us. House Intel Chair Adam Schiff appears to be threatening Ukraine over its ongoing corruption probe of the Biden family. During the impeachment hearings on Tuesday, Schiff claimed Ukraine's investigations into the Bidens could influence U.S. politics. He suggested Ukraine should leave the Bidens alone. Leave the Bidens alone. What have they ever done? I'm sorry, I was just, actually, if Adam Schiff was probably, leave the Bidens alone. What have they ever done? The real message to Ukraine, our U.S. policy message is don't engage in political investigations, stated Schiff. Because we really all care what Schiff says. Not. Republican lawmakers have suggested Democrats, rather than President Trump, have tried to pressure the foreign government. If the Democrats and the media are suddenly so deeply concerned about bribery, you would think that they would take some interest in Burisma paying Hunter Biden $83,000 a month, said Representative Devin Nunes. And you would think they would be interested in Joe Biden threatening to withhold U.S. loan guarantees unless the Ukrainians fired a prosecutor who is investigating Burisma. That would be a textbook example of bribery, Nunes said. Well, he didn't just threaten. He did. It was withheld. And they fired the prosecutor. And then the $1 billion, how much was it? It was a lot. It was billions. So, yeah, if anything is bribery, that is. Some officials in Kiev expressed concerns about possibly losing bipartisan support in the U.S. over the Biden scandal. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainians are tired of the issue regarding energy company Burisma Holdings. I think everybody in Ukraine is so tired about Burisma, said President Zelensky. We have our country, we have our independence, we have our problems and questions. After leaving office in 2017, Vice President Joe Biden bragged about strong-arming the government of Ukraine to fire its top prosecutor. Joe Biden made the remarks during a meeting of foreign policy specialists. Biden said he threatened Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko in March 2016 that the Obama administration would pull $1 billion. Okay, it was only $1 billion. Chump change. $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees, sending the former Soviet Republic toward insolvency if it didn't immediately fire Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin. Biden suggested during his talk that Barack Obama was in on the threat. The Gateway Pundit wrote on Sunday, shifty Representative Adam Schiff told ABC that President Trump should not be allowed to investigate Joe Biden's dirty dealings in Ukraine. Schiff believes this should not be allowed. It is essentially an open and shut case, and Democrats know it. All right. Now let's go back, because we have more. There's always more. Now, let's look at this. Because we can, and we will, and we shall. We're going to. All right, AG Barr's investigation expands to Obama's Pentagon. The opinions expressed by columnists are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of David Harris Jr. Well, there you go. There's your little whatever. Things are beginning to move quickly. U.S. Attorney John Durham has made a third trip to Italy as his investigation is now expanding to Obama's Pentagon and their contracts with Stefan Halper, Obama's spy. This comes as we find out that a former FBI lawyer is accused of altering a document to allow spying on the Trump campaign. John Durham's third trip to Italy would seem to mean that Italy was ground zero for overseas spying. We know that Joseph Mifsud is closely tied to Italy and to Western spy organizations. They must have a wealth of information if 3 trips are necessary to gather it all in. I'm getting the idea that when it hits the fan, it's going to be massive. Oh, there's going to be caca splattered everywhere. They're going to need a big fan when it hits, really. Senator Grassley has been trying to get details of the Pentagon's contracts with Halper, but the deep state has been meeting his requests with lots of resistance, of course. There must be something there, or no one would care. The more they try to hide, the more important it is for us to find out why. From the Gateway Pundit, Sarah Carter reported U.S. Attorney Durham is now investigating personnel in the Pentagon. Justice Department prosecutor U.S. Attorney John Durham is questioning personnel connected to the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment, which awarded multiple contracts to FBI informant Stefan Halper. Halper, who was informing the Bureau on Trump campaign advisors, is a central figure in the FBI's original investigation into President Donald Trump's 2016 campaign, SarahACarter.com has learned. These latest developments reveal the expansive nature of what is now a Justice Department criminal probe into the FBI's investigation into the Trump campaign. The revelation also comes on the heels of DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz's report regarding the Bureau's investigation into the Trump campaign and Russia. Senator Lindsey Graham announced to Fox News' Sean Hannity Wednesday night the lengthy investigative report will be released to the public on December 9th. All right. So there you have it. Very interesting things happening. Very interesting indeed. And let's go back because there's more. You got it. There's always more. Now let's go to this. And here we are. They're going to try to kill me. Rudy Giuliani reveals he has a kill switch to release Biden family crime documents if he disappears. Now, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but let's listen to, is it here? Well, maybe not. I thought we had the actual, here it is. Let's watch this.
That's why I hate to see,
Sure.
I do this for a living,
Right.
and I hate to see a lawyer do this to somebody.
Okay, you said it's not going to hurt you. Are you afraid, Mr. Mayor, that you could be indicted?
Oh, wow. But how long have you known me, Ed?
I've known you several years.
You think I'm afraid?
I don't know.
You think I get afraid?
Well,
I did the right thing. I represented my client in a very, very effective way. I was so effective that I discovered a pattern of corruption that the Washington press has been covering up for 3 or 4 years. You should have jumped all over this in 2015 when this awful conflict was mentioned.
Sure.
And it was hidden and suppressed by the Washington press.
But you know
the reality is I'm embarrassing you because you didn't do your job. And I'm also going to bring out a pay-for-play scheme in the Obama administration that will be devastating to the Democrat Party.
Okay.
I expected the moment I heard Biden's name,
Sure.
I told my colleagues they're going to try to kill me because they're going to kill the messenger. But damn it, the mafia couldn't kill me.
Right.
Your colleagues are not going to kill me.
Okay, so the Wall Street Journal, though, has reported that you were going to personally profit from a natural gas pipeline in Ukraine, and that's being investigated. You're laughing it off. Were you going to
I'm laughing it off because it's not true.
Okay.
It is completely false. I have no financial interest in the Ukraine. I'm not going to financially profit from anything that I know of in the Ukraine. If they know of it, I would probably have to disclose it to my hopefully soon-to-be ex-wife because she would get half of it. So, look, if I have no business interest in Ukraine.
Sure.
It is untrue. It is false. It isn't the first time the Wall Street Journal has printed false information. I can't keep up with the amount of false information printed about me.
So let's get to some facts.
I am telling you, if I were representing a terrorist and they were doing this to me because they didn't like my client, all you guys would be promoting me as a hero and a victim of what is, in fact, a concerted effort by the press to destroy me.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not painting you as a villain.
Okay,
I'm not painting you as a villain or a hero. We're just asking you the question. So I want to.
You're not going to get away with it. Let me make clear.
Yeah, real quick.
I have no business interest in the Ukraine.
Okay. So
here's
let's get to some facts.
Ukraine goes back several years.
Okay.
It's service work. I've been paid for it.
All right.
I was paid a reasonable. I got great praise for the work that, and I also note something else.
Yeah.
It was Zelensky who brought me up with President Trump, not President Trump.
Okay.
And that's because of my reputation in the Ukraine.
Have you talked to President Trump in the last week or two? Have you met with him? Are you still his counsel?
I don't discuss.
Interesting, isn't it? Now, let's go back up here. That was a very heated exchange. President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, is on fire and put the D.C. swamp and their liberal media stenographers on notice on Saturday. Giuliani reminded the D.C. swamp that he previously cleaned up mafia in New York and asked them, "Do you honestly think I'm intimidated?" Giuliani appeared on Fox News and told host Ed Henry that because he's the messenger exposing the Biden-Ukraine corruption that the liberal D.C. press suppressed, they're going to kill him. "Are you afraid, Mr. Mayor, that you could be indicted?" Ed Henry asked Giuliani. "Oh, wow. How long have you known me, Ed?" Giuliani asked, adding, "Do you think I'm afraid? Do you think I get afraid? I did the right thing. I represented my client in a very effective way. I was so effective that I've discovered a pattern of corruption that the Washington press has been covering up for 3 or 4 years. You should have jumped all over this in 2015 when the awful conflict was mentioned and it was hidden and suppressed by the Washington press, Giuliani added. But you know that the reality is I'm embarrassing you because you didn't do your job, and I'm going to bring out a pay-for-play scheme in the Obama administration that will be devastating to the Democrat Party. I expected this. The moment I heard Biden's name, I told my colleagues, they're going to try to kill me, he said, because they're going to kill the messenger. But damn it, the mafia couldn't kill me. Your colleagues are not going to kill me. This was an explosive exchange between Giuliani and Ed Henry, and it was. Rudy, in a follow-up tweet, revealed that he has a kill switch just in case something happens to him. The statement I've made several times of having an insurance policy if thrown under the bus is sarcastic and relates to the files in my safe about the Biden family's four-decade monetizing of his office, Giuliani said. If I disappear, it will appear immediately along with my RICO chart, he added. So, Rudy Giuliani has been exposing the Biden crime family's involvement in Ukraine corruption, specifically their pay-to-play scheme with Burisma Holding, a Ukrainian natural gas company. Ukrainian MP Andriy Derkach revealed last month that former Vice President Joe Biden was personally paid $900,000 for lobbying activities from Burisma Holdings. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and the swamp hit back at Giuliani by putting him under the criminal investigation for potential FARA violations and campaign finance violations. But Rudy is fighting back and put the DC swamp on notice that he's going into overdrive to expose more Obama-Biden pay-to-play corruption. This is good news for us. So those of us that are believers, we should pray for Rudy Giuliani that he remains safe and that he is able to get this information to people that can do something with it. Now, obviously, I'm sure he already has to some extent done that, but it's unbelievable that the people that are trying to make a difference and trying to right the corruption are so attacked and often suicided, if you know what I mean. You know, they commit suicide in strange ways, like, you know, shooting themselves and then strangling themselves or something like that. You know, just weird stuff. All right, let's go back. Okay. And this from Rudy Giuliani: I discovered a pattern of corruption that the Washington press covered up for years. I'm also going to bring out a massive pay-for-play scheme under the Obama administration that will devastate the Democrat Party. Do you honestly think I'm intimidated? And he also tweeted that in addition to his what he said on Fox News. Now, let's look at this. Is this why they went after Roger Stone so hard? I'm just wondering, because I don't remember this. This was in 2017. I don't remember this. Maybe you guys will, but this is kind of, well, for lack of a better word, gobsmacking. So let's take a look. Okay, now, Roger Stone in 2017. George Soros has penetrated the Trump White House. Soros has planted a mole infiltrating the national security apparatus. A woman named Fiona Hill, who has a Harvard background, has been on the Soros payroll and the payroll of the Open Society Institute. Let's listen.
Soros has penetrated the Trump White House. Soros has planted a mole infiltrating the national security apparatus. A woman named Fiona Hill, who has a Harvard background, has been on the Soros payroll and the payroll of the Open Society Institute, has been brought into the Trump White House by General McMaster. The reason this is significant is because, as you know, the Hungarian government has been fighting the Open Society Institute, which is a front in Hungary to destabilize the Hungarian government.
And we should add, they are patriot right-wingers that are pro-Trump, pro-Ron Paul. They just don't like Islamic invasion.
And I am told from the best possible sources in the Trump White House that only days ago in a showdown meeting, this woman, Fiona Hill, now on the national security staff, argued that she was a Russian expert and that the Trump administration must oppose the Hungarian efforts to crack down and expose on the so-called Open Society Institute.
That's the group that overthrew Ukraine. That's the group that was openly behind the Arab Spring. That's the group openly behind ending the free press here. That's the group openly behind funding the cop killer Black Lives Matter groups and literally funding the groups chanting, you know, kill the cops, deck the hall with dead cops. Why would anyone put up with this load of baloney?
And why would anyone have a woman with this background, Brookings Institute, Harvard, George Soros, Open Society, in the Trump White House?
That's a good question. But I wonder if this had anything to do with, you know, them wanting to bring him down. And I mean them, by them, I mean deep state. And I just pray that he gets justice, because it's unbelievable what they have done to him. It was a process crime, meaning that the crime was committed. Really, it was not even a crime, because, you know, they could call anything a process crime. They could ask you, you know, whatever question. And if you misremember something, even this minute, they can get you on line to the FBI. Well, and the thing is, the FBI is interviewing him for something that Trump never even did. So it's like, I don't get this. I don't get it. And showing up at his home, and CNN being there when they raided it, you know, they got him from his home. I mean, give me a break. Anyway. All right, let's go back now. Okay, I guess we have already looked at this, the detailed accounts about Biden and Ukraine. So let's take a look at this. All righty. Whistleblower and leaker. I don't really believe he's a whistleblower, but he probably blows something. Anyway, and leaker, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman accuses John Solomon of lying during testimony. John Solomon responds with a 28-point list and a warning. All right, let's take a look at this. This is from yesterday, so it's, you know, it's not hot news, but it's slightly warm. Okay. You know, this guy, there's something about his eyes. I don't know. I'm really good at picking up things like that, but I look at his eyes and I just see somebody that's not being truthful. Like, he just has that look. Like, I don't know. I wish I could describe what I'm seeing, but I don't know. Maybe you guys are seeing it as well. There's something about his eyes that I would not trust this man. So anyway, during his basement star chamber testimony in the U.S. Capitol, Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman accused investigative reporter John Solomon of lying about all of his facts, but his grammar may have been okay. Vindman is widely believed to be the original leaker and whistleblower. Again, he's not a whistleblower, but he may be a blower of some sort. Who knows? Who shared the contents of a classified phone call with anti-Trump CIA whistleblower Eric, the Carmel guy. Mr. Zeldin, did your sources, though, say that everything was false or just parts of it were false? Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, I think all of the key elements were false. Mr. Zeldin, just so I understand what you mean, you say key elements. Are you referring to everything John Solomon stated or just some of it? Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, all of the elements that I just laid out for you. The criticisms of corruption were false. On Friday, John Solomon responded to Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman with a list, a scolding, and a threat. Via John Solomon reports, I think all the key elements were false, Vindman testified. Representative Lee Zeldin, Republican New York, pressed him about what he meant. Just so I understand what you mean when you say key elements, are you referring to everything John Solomon stated or just some of it? All the elements that I just laid out for you. The criticisms of corruption were false. Were there more items in there? Frankly, Congressman? I don't recall. I haven't looked at the article in quite some time, but you know, his grammar might have been right. Such testimony has been injurious to my reputation, one earned during 30 years of impactful reporting for news organizations that included the Associated Press, the Washington Post, the Washington Times, and the Daily Beast, Newsweek. And so, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, here are the 28 primary factual elements in my Ukraine columns, complete with attribution and links to sourcing. Please tell me which, if any, was factually wrong. John Solomon then lists his points of fact for Vindman to refute. Solomon then ends his report with challenge to Vindman to disprove his thoroughly sourced reporting, and then Solomon demands that Vindman correct his testimony. This was a warning. Now, I'm going to just go, I'm not going to read all these, but let me see here. Let's take a look at these. I think I'm going to put this, these are all the facts. Facts number 1, 2, and there's 28 of them, and we don't have time to go through that, but I am going to put this link in my notes so that you guys that are looking at them on Patreon will be able to see them and follow them if you wish. Here we go. Now, let's go on here because, well, I think we have a little bit more time. Well, let's look at this. Come on. There we go. Now, I apologize. This is the Daily Mail, and if you don't allow the ads, then you can't see the article. So it's well, look at these hand-stitched shoes. See how ADD I am. All right, that's why I hate when there's articles or when there's advertisements, because I get too distracted. All right, Prince Andrew secretly met Jeffrey Epstein's madame, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Buckingham Palace after U.S. prosecutors reopened probe into pedophile. Prince Andrew, and this is from yesterday, so it's slightly warm news. Prince Andrew met Ghislaine Maxwell at his private palace quarters on June 6. She is said to have brought 4 other people with her. They stayed for 2 hours. Duke of York is on potential collision course with the Prince of Wales. Prince Charles plans to make the Duke of York expulsion permanent. Comes after Andrew was sacked from royal duties following BBC interview. All right. Prince Andrew secretly met his friend Ghislaine Maxwell at Buckingham Palace in early June, just a fortnight after U.S. prosecutors announced they were reopening their inquiry into the activities of convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, their mutual friend. Ms. Maxwell, the daughter of disgraced newspaper tycoon Robert Maxwell, has been accused of procuring underage girls for Epstein. She denies the claims. Andrew, 59, met Maxwell on June 6 inside the prince's private palace quarters, and she is said to have brought 4 other people along with her. Wonder what that was for. They were all smartly dressed and looked very official. They stayed for about 2 hours. Seems very likely that he would have been discussing the fallout from Epstein's misdemeanors and what they planned to do about it, a source told The Sun. Andrew and Maxwell's palace meeting came shortly before she set off on the Cash and Rocket charity motoring rally from London. The 57-year-old British socialite shared car number 28 with Nettie Mason, the wife of Pink Floyd rock star Nick Mason, for the duration of the event. Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of disgraced newspaper tycoon Robert Maxwell, has been accused of... Okay, well, we've already read that. Andrew, 59, met Maxwell on June 6 inside the prince's private palace quarters, and she is said to have brought 4 other people along with her. Andrew and Maxwell's palace meeting came shortly before she set off on the Cash and Rocket charity motoring rally from London. Maxwell joined a host of celebrities such as Paris Hilton and Chloe Green for the glitzy all-woman supercar rally, which finished 4 days later in Monaco. She was conspicuously absent from publicity photographs taken during the high-profile event, and all reference to her was deleted from the rally's website today. The 57-year-old British socialite shared car number 28 with Nettie Mason, the wife of Pink Floyd rock star Nick Mason, for the duration of the event. A week before the meeting, the Duke of York returned from a tour of Canada on May 29th. Prince Andrew is already planning a way to get back into the royal gravy train, while his eldest brother, Prince Charles, has every intention of making his expulsion permanent. The pair are pictured together at the Queen's Diamond Jubilee at St. Paul's Cathedral in 2012. A source said that they did not see how the Prince of Wales, pictured walking in Calcura this week, could ever let his brother resume royal activities. And the thing is, you know, this is hypocritical, because Prince Charles has probably done as bad or worse. I mean, you know, I think he was in on the murder of Princess Diana. You know, who knows what else he's in on. And he's probably had his fill of young girls as well, or possibly boys, I don't know. On June 1st, he attended a salute of the Grenadier Guards at the palace and a reception at Wellington Barracks. Then on June 3rd, Andrew met Donald Trump at the palace for the state banquet and had breakfast with him at St. James Palace the following day. The Duke was absent from D-Day's 75th anniversary in Portsmouth on June 5th, while on June 6th there were no royal engagements. During his disastrous BBC interview last week, Andrew was asked when he last saw Ms. Maxwell. It was earlier this year, funnily enough, in the summer, she was here doing some rally, he replied. The car rally is believed to be her last visit to the UK. Meanwhile, the Duke of York intends to make a grand comeback after clearing his name, the Mail on Sunday has been told, but sources say that his brazen self-belief, which palace insiders believe is misplaced, risks putting him on a potential collision course with the Prince of Wales. Prince Charles was instrumentally in effectively sacking his younger brother last week, and while Andrew's statement said he was stepping back from public duties for the foreseeable future, it is understood that Charles has every intention of making his expulsion permanent. A royal source said that Andrew believes that he can repair his shattered image simply by speaking to the FBI about the Epstein scandal. That view has raised eyebrows among senior palace courtiers who fear he can never regain public trust of Andrew's planned comeback. A source said, "I can't see that Charles would ever let it happen, and many at the palace just want him out of the scene now." End of. It's effectively an early retirement. After the Duke of York was sacked from the royal family, the Queen was seen taking a horse ride with him around Windsor to signal her support for her favorite son. All right. The Duke of York was photographed as he drove out of Buckingham Palace earlier this week. Wow. And his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, was also seen being driven into Buckingham Palace this week. Wow, why would she allow herself to be photographed with no makeup or anything on? I just think that's unusual for royalty. Anyway. Wow, she's really aged. I mean, we all age. I'm not, saying. All right. The permanent departure of Andrew could assist Charles' aim of creating a more streamlined and cost-effective monarchy when he becomes king. Other royal families are already tightening their belts. In Sweden, King Carl Gustav recently removed 5 of his grandchildren from the firm. Andrew is said to be keen for his representatives to make an approach to the FBI and is thought to be discussing the matter with his legal team. The feeling is there is no other way he can clear his name unless the FBI say there are no charges to face, the source said. The only way he can do that is to volunteer to talk under oath. He has said he is innocent of what he is being accused of and wants to clear his name. Sure he is. The only way he can do that is to volunteer. Okay, all right. And while the Duke has understandably been devastated that it has come to this, insiders say he is naively positive that he can survive the storm. Under the circumstances, he was in good spirits, said a friend who spoke to him in recent days. All right. I think there's way too much to read here, and I think I'm going to leave it there. So there you go. More about, him. All right. Let's go back here, see if we have... Okay, let's look at this now. Yes. Yes, we shall. U.S. Antifa and other leftist groups met in Germany with Al-Qaeda and ISIS to plot Trump's destruction. Okay, now this is from October 29th, and yes, it's stone cold by now, but I've never heard this. Have you? I saw this and I thought, my gosh, why isn't this everywhere? These hard leftist groups, although they claim to be against fascism, are fascist to the core, wanting to shut down violently, if necessary, anyone who disagrees with them. They claim to be against hate, but are more hateful than anyone, and so they see natural allies in Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Both hate the West, both hate the U.S., both hate the Judeo-Christian tradition, so they see each other as kindred spirits. Exclusive. U.S. left-wing groups traveled to Germany for the G20 summit last July to meet with Al-Qaeda and ISIS leaders and plot the destruction of President Trump, secret FBI investigation reveals. By Ed Klein, dailymail.com, October 29th, 2017. Edward Klein is the former editor-in-chief of the New York Times Magazine and author of numerous bestsellers, including his 4th book on the Clintons, Guilty as Sin. In 2016, his latest book is All Out War, The Plot to Destroy Trump, will be released October 30th, 2017. A secret FBI investigation of the violent resistance movement on college campuses against President Trump has led to an alarming discovery. The collusion between American anarchists and foreign terrorists in the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, according to confidential information report by FBI field offices. There is clearly overwhelming evidence that there is growing ties between U.S. radicals and the Islamic State, as well as several ISIS offshoots and splinter groups, stated the FBI field report, which was delivered to Acting Director Andrew McCabe on July 11th, 2017, and which is being published for the first time in my new book, All Out War, The Plot to Destroy Trump. The FBI report on efforts by Islamic terrorists to recruit followers among violent U.S. groups like Antifa corroborates President Trump's controversial claim following last summer's deadly protests in Charlottesville, Virginia, that left-wing anarchist groups are just as dangerous as right-wing white supremacists. A secret FBI investigation of the violent resistance movement on college campuses against President Trump has led to an alarming discovery. The collusion between American anarchists and foreign terrorists in the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, pictured above, are the protests in Charlottesville, Virginia. This is the greatest challenge to law enforcement since the Weather Underground and the Black Panther Party, the FBI report declared. Last summer, the FBI dispatched a task force to Europe to report on massive demonstrations planned by radical groups such as the German contingent basically Antifa, to protest President Trump's attendance at a meeting of leaders and central bank governors of the G20 group of major industrialized countries. Task force covered G20 meeting in Hamburg, studied intel from local authorities, Interpol, and other assets, determined that, as assumed, U.S.-backed anarchist radical groups had traveled to Germany and took place in the violence. The FBI summary stated there is also evidence of meetings between these individuals and associates of ISIS. There is an urgent need to closely surveil the identified individuals. The agents sent by FBI paid particular attention to a group of anarchists from Oakland, a major port city that lies adjacent to the campus of the University of California at Berkeley, the scene of several violent protests. So this is on the website Jihad Watch, and yes, it's outdated. It's very outdated. It's like, well, a little bit over a year ago, but I didn't know this, and maybe that's very telling on me, but I didn't know it, and so I figured, well, if I wasn't aware, maybe some of you aren't aware. So there you go. That's why I included it, and make of it at what you will. All right, let's go to this next. Charlie Kirk, what do Ilhan Omar, AOC, and Rashida Tlaib have in common? Well, I can think of several things, but all three face crushing FEC campaign finance violation. They've only been in office for 10 months, but they're all committed to breaking the law to serve themselves. These are the new faces of the Democrat Party, and they're not faces that I want to see for long. I'm just saying. So let me see now. I think I'm going to leave the rest. Well, let me just see. Okay, let's click on this because this is kind of timely, of course. Well, no, it's not. What is this? I don't know, but never mind. It's not what I thought it was. Why am I whispering? I don't know. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there because we have been going quite a while here, and I think that it's time to call it a night. Because if I don't even know what I was going to say. I've lost my thought. All right. Let me see now. Does it say how long I've been recording? Almost an hour. Well, you know what? We could slip in one more thing here. Sure we can. Okay. Let's look at this. This might be something well, no. Boom. I'll say that more like a... Rudy Giuliani drops another bomb on Biden family, adds Iraq to ever-expanding list of corrupt dealings. Well, I think quite a bit's going to be cutting that. This is hot news. November 24th. Hot. President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, is on fire and put the D.C. swamp and their liberal media stenographers on notice on Saturday. Giuliani reminded the D.C. swamp that he previously cleaned up the mafia in New York and asked them, okay, well, you know what? This is a different article, but it contains much of the same stuff that we've already read. And says here, this part is a little bit different. Here is Rudy's letter to Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham, where he also mentions Iraq as yet another country of shady Biden family dealings. I think we are going to be, well, we're not going to be shocked. You know something? I don't think I'd be shocked about anything with these guys. Really, I don't think no matter what comes out that I'll be shocked. It's gotten to that point where, you know, it gets to a certain point and then you go, okay, yeah, that doesn't even shock me anymore. And that's bad. But says, I want to write to you to ask your help on a very urgent problem as the Schiff frame-up moves forward based on inadmissible evidence, including double hearsay, rumors, guesses, surmises, questionable overhears, and a hysterical Trump-hating media, there is a very real set of crimes crying out to be investigated and, if necessary and appropriate, prosecuted. They are being ignored and covered up. There are at least 3 witnesses who have direct, non-hearsay evidence of Democrat criminal conspiracy with Ukrainians to prevent Donald J. Trump from being president, with the alternative to remove him from office based on contrived charges. This has been most recently established by Mark Zaid, the discredited anonymous informant's lawyer who called for a coup 10 days after the January 2017 inauguration. These witnesses have oral, documentary, and recorded evidence of the Biden family's involvement in bribery, money laundering, Hobbs Act, extortion, and other possible crimes. They do not seek anonymity. On here. They do not seek anonymity like the disappearing informant. They desire a visa, and it will be granted by Ambassador Bill Taylor's embassy in Kiev. The ambassador apparently has been too busy starring on midday soap operas, providing us with inadmissible second and third-hand information, including guesses and surmises, some of which I personally know is false because his information about me is largely untrue. This is understandable, however, as he has never met me or spoken to me about my legal work defending my clients against false charges. Frankly, he seems to not care or possibly not understand. In any event, under Taylor's predecessor, whom President Zelensky agrees was bad news, visas were denied to many who possessed evidence of Democrat embassy and Biden corruption. Some witnesses even went so far as to hire a lawyer as far back as October 2018, presented the United States Attorney's Office with their information about Ukrainian falsified information to affect the 2016 election and the exercise or influence by Joe Biden in exchange for payments to Hunter Biden and Devon Archer. This lawyer was suspiciously never contacted again. Now he is willing to share with you his memoranda and email. I would add that he is also a well-respected former United States attorney. The witnesses and others are ready, willing, and able to come to the United States and inform us of the corruption, election interference, and other crimes Americans committed in Ukraine in 2016. However, our embassy is uniformly refusing them visas. It is my duty as the president's personal counsel, in order to defend my client against another set of false charges, to bring these exigencies, circumstances to your attention. Although I understand the reluctance of the Senate to hold hearings in the past, and I appreciate the strong support from Senators Johnson, Grassley, and Kennedy, the Senate now has an additional duty to protect the office of the presidency from damage predicated by Alexander Hamilton from an impeachment becoming entirely partisan. Our constitutional balance is under attack by partisans not trying to do justice or follow the Constitution, but remove a president who they know they cannot defeat in an election less than 1 year away. At times, some of your colleagues have been critical of my actions without giving me the benefit of the doubt or the chance to explain. I am disappointed, but I have thick skin and realize there can be mistaken, immediate reactions to false or exaggerated criticisms from a largely hostile press. I assure you, despite the false rumors and exaggerations of reality, everything I did was to defend an innocent man, in this case, the President of the United States, not only from false charges, but from a deliberately planned conspiracy to prevent him from being elected, and then the insurance policy to remove him by false charges and illegal methods. Now, where is the part about Iraq? The current attempt is undoubtedly another effort to carry out the coup, and the attack on me, which is false, malicious, and unrelenting, is because I have the temerity to call attention to the tip of the pay-for-play pattern in the Obama administration. The Biden situation is not limited to Ukraine, but instead extends to other places where Biden was Obama's point man. In fact, everywhere Biden was point man, the Biden family happened to enrich themselves. Iraq and China are 2 other notorious examples. Indeed, this conduct of monetizing Biden's office for his family seems to go way back to his early days in the Senate. when asked his 40-year cover is to say he does not know his family's business dealings. However, after the third intimidation of Kay Corleone, such an absurd excuse becomes clear evidence of his guilty acquiescence to his family, in his family becoming millionaires by selling his office. His response is also quite often like a cheap thug. That is the way he acted with President Poroshenko. More recently, his demand on September 29th that the media keep me off the air showed an extraordinary entitlement to preferential media treatment, and his even more recent threat to Senator Lindsey Graham in... I have a cat under my seat. Lindsey Graham, in which he said the senator will regret his whole life, is like he is playing a grade B remake of The Godfather. He does this because he has been enabled by a predominant media that has ignored his pattern of criminality, which has played out for over 40 years right in front of their eyes. Now, I'm not going to go on and read all this because, well, it's ending, but it's a lot. But I do think it's very interesting. Excuse me while I use my cat begone here. And a little spray under here. And I didn't see a cat run out, so there's a wet cat under my chair now. All right, so there you go. I'm going to end it here. Let me read the last paragraph just to kind of sum it up. Of course, I am at their disposal for any help they need in facilitating the relevant witnesses coming to America, and also in uncovering and bringing to the American people the full scope of this scandal. The enablers will fight back and try to destroy those of us who reveal their long-term pattern of corruption, but be confident all those real people outside the swamp know this has been going on for a very long time. As it is revealed, many will say, we always suspected that this is why they are so alienated from DC. As it is revealed fairly and people held properly accountable, be assured trust and faith will be restored in a government with one standard for all Americans. Excuse me because the cat begone didn't work. That has to be Sammy because the cat begone doesn't work as well with him. See, I put this hardware cloth, they call it. It's like a plastic with tiny little holes. And I used a staple gun and I put that on the underside of this seat so that the cat can't climb up in it. Well, neither of them are very happy about that. So they're trying to find a way in, even though there is no way in. Well, I hope there's no way in, because I would like to continue to have my furniture. You know, the cats are hell-bent on destroying it, but all right, that is it. And I think I'm going to call it a night there, and I will be back tomorrow. So I do apologize for not posting the last 2 days, but again, it just couldn't be helped. There was issues in the family and that had to be dealt with, and that is why I am here. So there you go. Otherwise, I would be in the States enjoying the sun. Well, hopefully enjoying the sun. All right, so there you go. And I do want to thank a few people here that have donated since the last video. Coffee donations, A Good Lass, I like that name, A Good Lass, and Nellie Stirs, and Anita Sumter. Thank you so much for your donations. They are very, very appreciated, and they go to good use. They keep me doing what I'm doing. So there you go. And also Patreon, Alyssa McDaniel. I'm not sure. I may have thanked her in the last video, but I can't remember. So I'd rather thank someone twice than not at all. So anyway, she is a new Patreon supporter. Thank you so much. And that is it. I appreciate you guys, and so sorry about the last 2 days, but I don't foresee anything coming up this week that will keep me away, so I should be reporting this week. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. So anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and you got it. Keep seeking truth because, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.